We reached Oakbridge Hall before the music really started. I held a silver box against my chest so it would not shake. Inside was the necklace my mother wore on her wedding day, and I wore on mine. Michael fixed the corsage on my dress and smiled at me like he was steady enough for both of us. Then our son stepped out from the entryway. His face was calm. Too calm. "Mom, Dad, you're not invited," he said. He did not raise his voice. He did not look angry or unsure. He looked like a hotel clerk reading a policy. "Please leave. It's my day." For a second, I did not understand the words. I stood there with that box and a small hope in my throat that said this had to be a joke. Behind him I saw lights, flowers, and the edge of the arch we paid for. A bridesmaid touched his elbow and whispered. I heard a soft laugh. Heads turned. A few strangers stared at my corsage like it did not belong. Michael's jaw set in that quiet way I knew well. He did not argue. He did not beg. He stepped closer to me. My hands felt numb around the box. "You're not invited," our son said again, slower this time, clear and flat. "Please leave." He turned away before I could answer. He walked back inside like we were a problem he had checked off a list. Music swelled. Someone clapped. No one stopped to ask who we were. No one asked why I was holding a gift. The door closed on us, and the sound of it felt like ice on the back of my neck. I looked up at the arch, at the flowers we chose 6 months ago. I heard myself say, very softly, "He threw us away." Michael touched my elbow. "Let's go," he said. "Not here." I nodded because there was nothing else to do. We turned and walked back down the path we had paid to decorate. I kept my eyes on the ground because it was easier than meeting the looks that followed us. We passed the aisle chairs, white wood with ribbons I picked from a catalog. I could smell the flowers. They were bright and new and blind to what had just happened. From the lawn, I heard someone warming up a microphone and a short burst of feedback. A woman near the open bar watched us like we had wandered into the wrong backyard. She tilted her head, almost bored, and then looked away. Michael did not touch me, but his presence felt like a hand across my back. "Keep walking," he said. His voice was even. We moved under the arch. I stared at the wiring tucked behind the roses. I remembered the invoice for the custom arrangement and the note I had sent to the florist. "Thank you for making this special." Noelle, our son's bride, stood past the doors with her bridesmaids. She glanced over her shoulder. No smile, no question. Just a quick, appraising look. Like we were a delivery blocking the hall. Kira, the tall one with the sleek bun, leaned in and said something. Noelle's mouth tugged up at the corner. I felt my cheeks heat, and then I felt nothing. I held the box tighter until the paper creased. At the edge of the lawn, I stopped and looked at Michael. "Do we say anything?" I asked. "No," he said. "Not to them. Not like this." He opened the car door for me. When I sat, the seat was cool, and the quiet was loud. I placed the box in my lap and stared at the silver paper. "We raised a son," Michael said, buckling his belt. "Today we saw a stranger." I could not answer, because the words were true and simple and sharp. He started the car. The music behind us rose again, and a cheer went up like the day had snapped back into place without us. We drove past the catering van we had found when the first company tried to double their price. I remembered the long call where Michael pushed back and found a better option. I remembered our son not saying thank you. The wind moved the petals that had been sprinkled along the path. They looked like a trail away from us. I did not cry. My eyes were dry, and my mouth tasted like metal. The arch grew smaller in the rearview mirror. He meant it, I said. He didn't hesitate. Michael kept his eyes on the road. I know. We turned out of the parking lot. The sign for Oakbridge Hall flashed past. A clean logo and a photo of the ballroom at night. It looked beautiful. It looked like nothing that had just happened could touch it. I loosened my grip on the silver box and smoothed the creases on the paper. We paid for that arch, I said. The chairs, the band deposit, half the food. More than half, Michael said. His hands were steady on the wheel. But I saw the tightness in his jaw again, the one he wore when he was trying not to show pain. And the venue, I added, in our names. We reached a stoplight. Michael glanced at me, then at the folder he always kept in the side pocket. It was thick with copies of contracts and receipts. Everything is in that file, he said. The light turned green. He drove on, calm and careful. I looked at the box again. I had imagined handing it to Noelle in a small, quiet moment. I saw her opening it, touching the necklace, and the way her eyes might soften. That scene was gone now, like smoke. Pull over, I said. Where? Anywhere with Wi-Fi. He nodded once and made the next turn. We pulled into a small cafe with a faded sign and a chalkboard menu. He parked, and the engine went silent. For a moment, we both just listened to our own breathing. Let's sit, he said. And then, let's think. Inside the cafe, the air smelled like espresso and old wood. A fan turned slowly above our heads. We chose a small table by the window, where the light was kind. I set the silver box in the middle like a third person at our table, and Michael pulled the folder from his bag. He spread the papers out in order. Oakbridge Hall contract, sound system rental, band deposit, florist invoice, catering schedule. Every page had our names. Every page had our signatures. The server brought 2 coffees and left us alone. I took a sip and felt nothing. We still have control, Michael said. His voice was quiet and even. We do, I said. The calm that came next surprised me. It did not rush in. It settled, like dust after a hard knock. I picked up my phone and scrolled to the florist. Ava. We had met her in a small shop that smelled like green stems and clean water. She had smiled at my note about the arch. I pressed call. She answered on the second ring. Ava, this is Teresa, I said. I need to cancel. I told her the event was not for us anymore. I told her the balance would not be paid. I did not tell her what our son had said. She paused, respectful. Understood, she said. I'll process the cancellation. There may be a fee. Send it to me, I said. We'll settle it. Michael dialed the venue. Mr. Salazar? Yes. We need to cancel the remaining services. No, the event cannot continue as planned. Yes, I understand the disruption. He listened. He stayed calm. He repeated the facts. I called the band. Michael called the caterer. I called the planner, Sienna, and told her the same thing. She tried to argue in a careful voice. It's their day, she said. It was our money, I said. Send me the paperwork. I hung up and turned my cup slowly. The cafe door opened, and a breeze touched my face. My phone buzzed once on the table. When I looked down, his name lit the screen. The name hit me like a small hammer. Daniel. I had typed it 1,000,000 times without thinking. Now it looked strange and sharp. The call rang out, then ended. A message followed. "What's going on?" I stared at the words. Michael's phone lit too. He turned it face down. I called the sound tech next. He said he could pause the setup until he heard otherwise. "Thank you," I said, like we were talking about a shipment of boxes. And not a wedding where we had been cut out like bad pieces of fabric. My phone buzzed again. 2 more missed calls. A new message. "Mom." Answer. I thought about the way he had said those words an hour earlier at the door. "Mom, Dad." As if the words did not belong to us anymore. I typed back. "We left." My hands were steady. I did not add anything else. Michael finished with Mr. Salazar and wrote a note on the contract copy. "Paused, pending final cancellation," he said. The band leader, Marco, texted me. "We're here. Do you want us to keep holding?" I pictured him and his crew waiting with their cases beside the stage. "Hold for now," I wrote. "I'll confirm shortly." Sienna called. "Teresa, let's not do anything rash," she said. "Guests are seated. We can adjust the timeline." "No," I said. "We're done." She sighed into the phone, more annoyed than sad. "I'll need your signature to release vendors." "You have it on file," I said. "Use it." I ended the call and set my phone down. It buzzed. I didn't pick it up. The server asked if we needed anything. Michael asked for water. The cafe felt like a quiet room inside a storm. Another buzz. Another. A tight line formed between my eyes, but I did not feel tears. "He'll try to make this about the day," Michael said, reading my face. "But this is about the last 10 years. "I know," I said. The phone buzzed again. The counter now showed 3 missed calls, then 5, then 9. The calls stacked like plates in a sink. 11, 19, 27. I watched the number grow and felt a strange calm spread through my chest, like a clean field after harvest. The sound tech texted to say he had powered down until told otherwise. The caterer replied that hot dishes would not be sent if payment was not confirmed. Sienna sent me a long message with times and costs, and a careful hint that this could affect relationships. I typed back, "It already has. Send me every fee. We will close them out." Ava called from the venue. "We've paused the install," she said. "Your son tried to rebook us directly just now." I closed my eyes for a second. "Please invoice me for the cancellation only," I said. "No rebooking." "Understood," she said, and there was a softness in her voice I had not heard before. Marco texted again. Bride sighed, asking what's happening. "Do we start acoustic and stall?" I could see them, eager to save the mood with a pretty song. "Hold," I wrote. "If anyone asks, say the client hasn't cleared the balance." It was the truth without the wound. Michael leaned back and rubbed his temple. "Salazar says they'll halt service at the next checkpoint," he said. He sounded relieved. I let out a slow breath. The cafe door opened and closed, and each time, a warm gust brushed our table and set the papers trembling. My phone buzzed again. "How could you do this? It's cruel." My thumb hovered. I did not reply. The number on missed calls reached 32. I counted the digits, the way I used to count his steps on a playground, steady and slow. I touched the edge of the silver box and felt the hard curve of the necklace inside. "Not cruel," I said to the lid. "Clear," Michael heard me. He nodded, eyes on the window, jaw no longer clenched. "Clear," he repeated. Outside, a truck rolled by. Somewhere, A song started and then cut off mid-line. Clarity pulled old memories out of the dark like stones from a pocket. I saw him at 16, standing in our driveway by the used car we bought with careful money. It was safe, clean, and nothing fancy. He ran his hand over the hood and frowned. "Everyone else has better," he said. I laughed then, too quickly, like a mother who wants clouds to pass if she smiles at them. "It will get you where you need to go," I told him. He took the keys and drove off to his friend's house without a hug. Later, when I was washing dishes, Michael said, "We'll expect a thank you tomorrow." We never got one. The memory slid to the next. Boxes piled in a new apartment after college. Our arms sore, our legs like wet ropes. We built bookshelves and unrolled a rug and set plates in a cabinet while he checked his phone. "Thanks," he said once, eyes already on a dinner with friends. When I asked about a small houseplant I brought, he said, "Can you put it somewhere out of the way?" I told myself it was his age. "He'll grow," I said to the quiet. But it did not change. During wedding planning, it was a new rhythm with old steps. We offered help. We were told where to send money. We asked to see a centerpiece mock-up. "Don't stress me," he said. "I want to enjoy this." He forwarded confirmations like weather reports we had no power over. When the planner changed the cake vendor without telling us, a new invoice appeared. "It's easier if you pay them directly," he wrote. I paid it because I did not want to be the storm on his day. I thought that was love. In the cafe, with the coffee gone cold, I finally named it. I had been hiding our hurt under smooth paper for years, the way I had wrapped the box in my lap. I slid the silver box closer and eased up the taped edge with my nail. The paper opened with a soft tear. Inside was a velvet case, dark blue, clean as the evening sky. I lifted the lid. The necklace lay there like a line of small moons. I touched the clasp and felt my mother's hands in mine. I saw her in a mirror, years ago, pinning it around my neck before I walked down a different aisle. I remembered a tiny boy at my side, 6 years old, spinning the pendant on my chest and saying, "I want my wife to wear this one day." At the time, I laughed and kissed his hair. Today, he had not even looked at the box. My phone buzzed. A photo had been posted from Oakbridge Hall. Noelle stood by a window with her bridesmaids. The caption said, "Family is who shows up." I stared at the words until the letters blurred. My face was not there. Michael leaned forward. "Ava?" he asked. "She's done," I said. "She'll send the final fee." He nodded. "Salazar too. The sound tech has powered down. The band is holding." I closed the box and retied the paper as best I could, like I was wrapping up a memory so it would not break in the air. Then I placed it back in my lap and set my palm on top of it, almost like I was trying to warm a small cold animal. The phone buzzed again. "What are you doing? This is my wedding. Answer me." I typed, "You told us to leave." We left. I hit send and set the phone face down. Michael sipped water. The fan turned above us. The day moved on without us. I waited for pain to rise like a wave. But what came instead was something steady and low, like a new floor forming under my feet. "We didn't do this to him," I said. "We just stopped doing it for him." Michael's eyes met mine, and for the first time since the door closed, I saw us in the same place. Ava's call came late in the afternoon. Her voice carried the sound of traffic behind it. "Your son tried to rebook us," she said carefully. "He wanted the flowers finished without your approval." I pressed my hand over my eyes. Please send the cancellation invoice only, I told her. We won't cover anything new. She paused, then said, Understood. I'll close the order. When I hung up, Michael was finishing a note on the back of a contract. Salazar says Noelle tried to sign a side agreement, he said. But she doesn't have authority. Our names are on the contract. He's holding. I looked at the silver box in my lap. I had smoothed the paper so many times, it now looked thin and weak. They're trying to patch it without us, I said. Michael nodded. It won't hold. My phone buzzed again. Marco, the band leader, sent a new text. Bride's family asking questions. Do we keep waiting? I typed back. Pack up. The balance won't be cleared. He replied with a single word. Copy. I imagined them folding up stands, closing cases, and walking past guests with puzzled faces. The thought did not sting. It settled. My phone buzzed again. Daniel's name. I watched it ring out, then another, and another. 35 missed calls now. 36. The number grew like ivy. A message followed. Mom, this is ruining everything. Why are you doing this? I thought of his first year of college, when we paid his rent and sent care packages. He had called then only to ask for money, never to talk. This was the same tone, a reach without warmth. I turned the phone face down. Michael closed the folder and stacked the papers. He pushed his coffee away. It's starting to crumble, he said, and he hasn't even seen the end yet. I nodded, feeling the weight of the silver box press into my thighs. Neither have we, I whispered. By evening, the cafe had grown louder. Cups clinked, chairs scraped, and voices filled the space. But at our table, there was stillness. Michael flipped through the contracts again, tallying balances. We'll need to settle the florist fee, the sound tech, and the band cancellation, he said. But the catering balance is unpaid. They'll walk away. I nodded. My phone lit up again. A flood of texts filled the screen. How could you do this? You're cruel. This is the most important day of my life. My throat tightened. I did not answer. Instead, I looked at the silver box, the necklace still safe inside. He didn't even ask what was in it, I said. Michael leaned back, rubbing his hands together. He didn't want us. He wanted what we gave. The words landed heavy. I thought of the long nights, sorting through floral options. The hours on the phone with Sienna. The careful way I had tried to keep peace. None of it mattered. Not really. It wasn't about sharing joy, I said. It was about using what we offered. Outside, the sky had shifted gray. The light through the window turned softer, almost cold. Michael tapped a line on the catering invoice. The balance is due tomorrow. Without it, no food goes out. He set the page down, like a card in a game. The celebration won't last. I touched the folded edge of the paper around the box again. The necklace had survived 2 weddings. It would survive this too. My phone buzzed once more. The counter now showed 39 missed calls, then 40. I exhaled slowly. He'll say we ruined it, I whispered. But all we did was stop holding it up. Michael's eyes found mine. Sometimes letting go is the only way left. He closed the folder with a firm hand. The sound felt final, like a door locking. My phone buzzed again. 46 missed. I did not reach for it. I let it ring. When we got home that night, the house felt heavier than usual. Michael carried the folder to the kitchen table and spread it open like a map. I carried the silver box and set it beside him. He didn't speak at first. just flipped through the papers with his careful fingers. The pile looked endless. Deposits, invoices, confirmation emails we had printed for safety. "Look at this," he said, tapping the last page. It was our will. His voice was quiet, but it carried a weight I hadn't heard in years. "Daniel is still listed as sole beneficiary." I stared at the words. Black ink on white paper, simple as a knife. My throat tightened. "After today?" I whispered. Michael shook his head. "It doesn't make sense anymore." I lowered myself into the chair and touched the edge of the paper. It felt like ice beneath my hand. "We planned it when he was young," I said, "when we thought he'd be the one to take care of everything when we were gone." Michael looked at me. We were wrong. I thought of Daniel laughing with his fiancée as we left, the way he didn't even blink when he erased us. The will wasn't a promise anymore. It was a chain. Michael pushed the papers toward me. "Tomorrow, we change this." I nodded, though my chest felt like it was splitting. My phone sat on the counter, face down. I didn't need to look to know it was still buzzing. 46 calls, I murmured. And not one word of regret. Michael closed the folder and pressed his palm flat on top of it. "We'll call a lawyer in the morning," he said. I looked at the silver box, the necklace inside, and I finally knew it wasn't for Daniel. Not anymore. It was for someone who would honor it, not erase it. The next morning, Michael called the law office we'd used years ago. They referred us to someone new, Ms. Harper. Her voice on the phone was calm and clear. She offered an appointment that same afternoon. We drove downtown in silence, the city moving around us like we were sealed inside glass. At the office, Ms. Harper greeted us with a steady hand and eyes that didn't pry. We laid the folder on her desk, Michael explained while I listened, my hands folded tightly on my lap. "We need to update everything," he said. "Trusts, wills, accounts. We don't want Daniel as sole beneficiary anymore." She nodded, flipping through each page with professional ease. "You're not the first parents to make this decision," she said gently. "It doesn't mean you don't love him. It means you're protecting yourselves." I breathed slowly, but my heart thudded. "We thought love meant giving," I said. "We didn't notice it turned into taking." She looked at me, steady. "That happens more often than you think." She marked signatures, flagged sections, and explained our options: new trusts, contingency clauses, legal seals that would hold even if Daniel tried to argue. "You'll face pushback," she warned. "He may accuse you of cruelty. He may try to guilt you. Be ready." Michael's jaw tightened, but he nodded. I sat straighter. "We've already heard those words," I said. "We can hear them again." She smiled faintly. "Then you're further along than most." We left with a folder of drafts and a follow-up appointment. As the elevator carried us down, I caught my reflection in the mirrored wall. My face looked older, but clearer. "You won't take this quietly," Michael said beside me. I nodded. "Neither will we." When we stepped out into the street, the air felt sharp and new. That evening, the house was restless with noise, even though nothing moved but our phones. Daniel's voice filled the room through voicemail after voicemail. We played them on speaker so we could both hear. "You're selfish," he shouted in the first one. "You ruined me," came the second. His words were thick with anger. But not once did he say he was sorry. The messages rolled on, one after the other, until the phone's memory filled with them. Between his calls, other numbers appeared. Noelle's parents, the Coles, left a clipped message. "We don't understand what you've done, but this can't continue." Their tone carried more embarrassment than care. Then came the group chat. Names scrolled by. Distant cousins, old friends, even people we hadn't spoken to in years. Daniel had pulled them all in. One message read, "Parents are causing a scene. Pray for us." Another, "They canceled everything. Unbelievable." The story was spreading without us. I felt heat rise in my chest, then cool just as quickly. Michael scrolled through the chat without replying. "He's painting us as villains," he said, voice even. I nodded. My phone buzzed with a private message. It was Omar, my nephew. "Aunt Teresa, I believe you. I've seen the way he treats you. Don't explain yourself to the rest." Tears stung my eyes, but they didn't fall. One voice of truth cut through the crowd, and it steadied me. Michael turned off the speaker and set the phone aside. "We knew he'd do this," he said. "Now it's beginning." I looked at the silver box still on the counter. I whispered, "He may try to erase us, but we still hold the receipts." The phrase made Michael glance at me with something like relief. "Then we keep holding them," he said. The phone buzzed again, lighting the dark kitchen. We didn't reach for it. By the next day, the story had shifted online. Noelle posted a polished photo of her dress with the caption, "Pressure makes people act out." "We just wanted a peaceful day." Daniel commented beneath, "We needed boundaries." The comments rolled in. Friends and strangers telling them they were brave, that parents could be controlling, that love would carry them through. Not one of those voices knew what we had heard at the door. "You're not invited." Not one knew we had paid for every ribbon and plate. Michael showed me the post on his phone. "They're rewriting it already," he said. I felt something in my chest that should have been anger, but it wasn't. It was stillness, cold and firm. "Then we'll keep our own record," I said. That night, I started what I later called the folder. I printed screenshots of Noelle's post, Daniel's comments, the messages from the group chat. I slid them behind the contracts and invoices. Every piece was a page of truth. As I worked, the phone buzzed with new alerts, new accusations. They made the day about themselves. Some parents just don't know when to step back. Each one stung, but less than the last. Michael sat beside me, watching. "You don't have to keep every scrap," he said. "Yes, I do," I answered. "Not for them, for us, to remind ourselves what really happened." He nodded, then placed his hand over mine as I slipped another page into the folder. I thought of the necklace in the silver box, resting quietly beside the stack. One held our history. The other held our defense. Together, they told the truth. My phone buzzed again, and I let it. Instead of answering, I slid the latest printout into the folder and closed it. "If they want to twist the story," I said, "we'll keep the real one." That night, I lay awake, and old memories rose like ghosts. I was 19 again, standing at my father's doorstep after he had remarried. His new wife opened the door, and he stood behind her. "You should have called first," he said. "This is our space now." I remembered the sting of being turned away, the shame of standing with nowhere to go. That same sting had returned at Oakbridge Hall when Daniel said, "You're not invited." It felt like history repeating itself, only sharper because this time it was my own child. I turned on my side and stared at the silver box on the dresser. My chest tightened. All those years, I had told myself love was sacrifice. Give more, expect less. Endure the small dismissals, because children grow out of them. Except Daniel hadn't grown out of it. He had grown into it. Every gift, every chance, every dollar we had given only fed the belief that he could take without giving back. The hurt curled into something new as the night stretched on. Not tears, not fear, anger. For the first time, I let myself feel it. It wasn't loud anger. It was quiet, firm, steady. It filled the cracks left by years of excuses. I sat up and whispered into the dark, no more. Michael stirred beside me. "What is it?" he asked, his voice low. I looked at him. "I'm done being erased," I said. He held my gaze, then reached for my hand. He didn't speak, but the way his fingers closed around mine told me he felt it too. That night, anger didn't crush me. It carried me. It was the first time in years I felt strong. The next morning, Michael scrolled his phone over coffee. He turned the screen to me. Noelle's parents, the Coles, had posted glossy photos from Oak Bridge Hall, her dress glowing, Daniel smiling. The caption read, "Resilient love always finds a way." In the background, the arch we had ordered was gone, stripped bare. A simple stand took its place. "They're pretending it was perfect," Michael said. I studied the photo. Guests had commented with hearts and clapping hands. No mention of flowers pulled down. No mention of a band that never played. It was a story painted smooth, while ours was full of cracks. "Let them pretend," I said. "We don't need to fight for their stage." Michael leaned back. "Then, what do we fight for?" I pointed to the folder on the table. "Truth. Boundaries. Us." My phone buzzed again, with another string of messages from relatives. She just needed space. "Why couldn't you step aside?" Not one asked what Daniel had actually said. Not one wanted to know the words that cut us out. "They don't care about our side," I said. "They care about the story that looks better in pictures." Michael rubbed his chin. "So we stop giving them pieces to twist." I nodded. Silence could be stronger than any explanation. That day, I ignored every call, every message. I watered the plants, folded laundry, and let the phone buzz itself quiet. By evening, the stillness in the house felt almost clean. We hadn't defended ourselves, but for once, I didn't feel erased. I felt deliberate. We were not invisible. We were choosing not to be seen on their stage. That choice, I realized, was its own kind of power. 2 days later, a letter came in the mail. The envelope bore the mark of a law office I didn't recognize. Inside was a request from Daniel's attorney. He wanted access to an old education fund we had once created for him, the kind we thought would help him through school. We had never closed it, and though it was small compared to everything else, it was still there. The words on the page made my stomach knot. Even after everything, after telling us to leave, after erasing us from his wedding, he was still reaching for more. Michael read it twice, his jaw tight. "It's not enough to cut us out," he said. "He wants to use us too." I folded the letter carefully and set it aside. "Then we'll close it," I said. That afternoon, I went to the bank. The clerk, a young man with kind eyes, asked for my ID and paperwork. He looked at the account, then back at me. "Do you want to transfer it?" he asked. "No," I said. "Close it." He hesitated. "Are you sure?" I nodded. My hand didn't shake as I signed the form. The clerk tapped his keyboard, and just like that, the account was gone. Final. As I walked back to the car, the sun was bright, but didn't feel warm. Michael was waiting behind the wheel. "It's done?" he asked. "It's done," I said. I expected to feel guilty, but what I felt instead was relief. Like I had cut the last string that tied me to an endless pull. We drove home in silence, the letter folded in my purse, no longer holding power. The following morning, we went out for breakfast. It was simple. A plate of pancakes split between us, hot coffee, a window seat with morning light. For the first time in months, we didn't talk about Daniel. We talked about repainting the kitchen, about the patch of garden that needed new soil. The air between us felt lighter, like a door had been opened. As we left the diner, a woman I didn't know stopped me near the door. She had kind eyes and spoke with hesitation. "Excuse me, are you Daniel's mother?" I froze for a moment. "Yes," I said carefully. She smiled, almost sad. "I just wanted to say, I read what you posted in that parents' forum. It made me rethink things with my own daughter. Thank you for being brave." My throat tightened. I hadn't posted anything public, only a short reflection in a private group, words I thought would stay quiet, but somehow they had reached her. "You're welcome," I whispered. She squeezed my hand and walked away. Michael looked at me as we stepped into the parking lot. "Even silence speaks," he said. I nodded, still holding on to the warmth of her words. That day, I realized something important. I didn't need the crowd to know the truth. I only needed to know it myself. And sometimes that truth found its way to others who needed it too. We drove home with the windows cracked open, the breeze moving through the car. For once, we weren't carrying the weight of unanswered calls or unspoken pain. We were carrying nothing but pancakes, sunlight, and the start of peace. That evening, the phone rang again. Daniel's name glowed on the screen. For the first time in days, I let it ring twice before I answered. His voice was unsteady, thick with something between anger and pleading. "Mom," he said, "I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean for you to leave." I closed my eyes. His words were softer now, but they did not erase the ones he had spoken at the door. "You told us we weren't invited," I said quietly. "You made it clear." He stumbled over his reply. "I was under pressure. You don't know how stressful it's been." Noelle was worried. "The planner was pushing me." His excuses stacked on top of each other like bricks, but none of them filled the hollow left behind. I waited until he ran out of breath. Then I said, "We're not pretending anymore." Silence stretched between us. I could hear him breathing, the sound of someone searching for words that wouldn't come. "So that's it?" he asked finally, his tone breaking. My eyes fell on the silver box resting on the counter, untouched, unopened. "That's it," I said, and I ended the call. Michael looked up from his chair. "What did he say?" I shook my head. "Everything but sorry." Michael leaned back, his face calm, though I saw the heaviness in his eyes. "Then he hasn't changed." I sat down, my body trembling, but not from fear. It was strength this time, the kind that came from finally saying no. The next morning, we made a list. Every shared plan, every link, every string that tied us to Daniel's life. The phone line we had added to our account for him years ago. The streaming service he still used under our password. The spare keys tucked in a drawer. Even the boxes of furniture we had left in his storage unit. One by one, we wrote them down. Michael handled the bank. Joint accounts reviewed. Emergency transfers canceled. I handled the house. Changing locks, gathering old keys, canceling subscriptions. Each step was small, but together they felt like a wall being built brick by brick. At first, my chest tightened with guilt, but then the feeling eased. This wasn't punishment. It was protection. By the afternoon, we had crossed out half the list. Michael crossed out the last line and set down his pen. "No more second chances," he said. His voice was steady, not hard. I nodded, feeling the truth settle in me. No more. The house felt different that evening. Lighter, like a draft had finally been sealed. I cooked dinner while Michael watered the plants. For the first time in a long while, we weren't living under Daniel's shadow. We were living in our own home, under our own rules. When I set the silver box on the table beside the folder, I realized something. The necklace wasn't a gift for a bride anymore. It was a reminder for me. A reminder that love is not meant to erase you. It is meant to honor you. That night, I opened the folder again. The contracts, the invoices, the screenshots, the printouts, all of it lay in neat stacks. Beside it, the silver box rested, quiet and unassuming. I added new pages, copies of the letter from Daniel's lawyer, the receipt from the bank, showing the education fund closed, and a printed list of the accounts we had severed. Each paper slid into place like proof that we had finally chosen ourselves. I pulled a fresh sheet of paper and began to write. The pen felt heavy, but the words came steady. "I love you, Daniel. I always will, but I love myself too. And that means I can't let you keep taking from me." I wrote about the necklace and what it meant. I wrote about every year we gave, about the times he left us behind, about the day he told us to leave his wedding. My hand shook, but I didn't stop. When I finished, I folded the note and tucked it into the back of the folder. This wasn't for him. It was for me. A record of truth. A reminder I could hold if I ever doubted the path we had taken. Michael came into the room, drying his hands on a towel. He saw the paper and the way I placed it inside. "What did you write?" he asked. "A reminder," I said. He didn't press. He just placed his hand on the folder and closed it gently. "Then it's safe now," he said. For the first time, I felt like it truly was. The following days brought new waves of messages. Friends and relatives called, each one carrying the same chorus. "Be the bigger person. Fix this before it's too late. Parents should always bend." Their words piled on, heavy and familiar, the kind of guilt I had carried for years. But this time, I didn't move beneath the weight. I didn't explain. I didn't justify. I let the calls go to voicemail. I let the messages stack without replies. Silence became my answer, and it spoke louder than anything I could have written. Michael scrolled through the messages with me at the table. "They don't know the whole story," he said. I nodded. "And they don't want to know. They just want it simple." The missed calls counter climbed again. 42, 43. By the end of the day, it reached 46. The number sat on the screen like a monument, glowing in the dark kitchen. I stared at it without flinching. 46 calls, I whispered. Not one apology. Michael closed his phone and slid it aside. "Then we don't answer," he said. I leaned back in my chair, the hum of the fridge filling the silence. For years I had filled silence with explanations, apologies, soft words to smooth over rough edges. Now I let it stretch between us, clean and full. It didn't feel empty. It felt strong. That night, as I set the folder and the silver box on the dresser, I realized that silence was no longer a weakness. It was our choice. And it was enough. A week later, a delivery arrived at our doorstep. A large white envelope with gold trim, addressed in Noelle's handwriting. Inside was an invitation. Reconciliation dinner, 7 p.m. at La Belle Maison. At the bottom, a handwritten note. Let's talk. Let's fix this. Love, Daniel and Noelle. My fingers traced the ink, but my chest stayed still. That night, when 7 o'clock came, we stayed home. We ate soup at the kitchen table, the folder and the silver box sitting between us like quiet witnesses. Later, I scrolled my phone and saw a photo Noelle had posted online. She and Daniel were seated at a restaurant table with candles. The caption read, "Some people just won't show up, but love carries on anyway." Comments poured in, "You deserve better. Some parents never learn." I closed the screen without a word. Michael sat across from me, watching. I picked up the invitation and slid it into the folder. "Why keep it?" he asked. "Because it's proof," I said. He nodded, and his shoulders loosened. For once, the sting of being painted as villains didn't pierce me. It only confirmed what I already knew. They would keep rewriting the story for others. But we would keep the truth for ourselves. A few days later, the phone rang again. This time, the voice wasn't Daniel's. It was Noelle. Her tone was different. Lower, strained. "He's not sleeping," she said quickly. "He's angry, yes, but he's unraveling. Please, just talk to him." I held the phone to my ear and looked out the window at the bare trees shifting in the wind. "We already tried," I said. "At the wedding. He told us to leave." She hesitated. He didn't mean it. He was nervous, overwhelmed. I closed my eyes. Those words weren't nervous. They were clear. Silence stretched. Then she whispered, "If you don't talk to him, this could break him." My throat felt dry, but my voice stayed calm. He made his choice. We're making ours. I ended the call before she could answer. Later that afternoon, a courier came with a thick envelope from a lawyer. Michael opened it at the table. Inside were papers. Another request for financial support, framed as concerns over shared assets. Michael's face stayed calm as he slid the papers back inside. "They're not done reaching," he said. I looked at the folder on the dresser, already heavy with proof, and then at the silver box. "Then, we're not done protecting," I said. That night, I tucked the new envelope into the folder, shut the clasp, and set it back in its place. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was waiting for the next storm. I felt like we were ready for it. The last Sunday of that month, Michael and I sat on the porch as the sun dipped low over the trees. The air was cool, quiet, almost tender. The silver box rested on the small table between us, the necklace inside untouched, still shining beneath its velvet lid. Beside it lay the folder, thick with papers, proof of everything we had endured and everything we had chosen. I reached out and ran my hand across the cover. It no longer felt heavy. It felt finished. Michael sipped his coffee, eyes on the horizon. "Do you regret it?" he asked softly. I thought of Oakbridge Hall, of the arch and the chairs, and the music that never played. I thought of Daniel's blank face as he told us to leave, of the 46 missed calls, of the staged photos and twisted stories. Then I thought of pancakes in the diner, of closing the bank account, of silence that finally felt like peace. "No," I said. "Not anymore." He nodded, as if he already knew my answer. I opened the silver box and let the necklace catch the last light of day. "This was supposed to be hers," I whispered. "But now I see it was never meant to be given away like that." I closed the lid again, gently, as if sealing a promise. Michael leaned back in his chair, shoulders loose for the first time in months. The sky turned pale gold, and the garden below us stirred with wind. I whispered into the quiet, almost to myself, "Sometimes the truest revenge is peace." Michael reached over and took my hand. We didn't need more words. The calls had stopped. The house was ours again. And for the first time in years, I felt light enough to breathe without waiting for the next demand. The day had ended without him, but our lives had not. They had only just begun again, free and whole.